I'm just going on the fly. So, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Studies. My name's Josh. Today, I've got my buddy Danny K reviews. We're going to talk about some Sergio Corbucci movies. What's up, Danny?
What's going on, man? Thanks for inviting me. This was awesome watching these three movies. I definitely recommend watching these to, well, anyone out there that's interested, though. If you guys have seen these, you probably already know they're good movies.
Yeah. So, for anyone who doesn't know, we're going to talk about three films from director Sergio Corbucci, who, if you're a Tarantino fan, you've probably at least heard the name. Um, I mean, his most famous movie is Django. We're going to talk. That's one of the ones we're going to talk about. He made Django Unchained, which is very much an homage to that movie. But there's a couple others that are lesser known titles, but are at least one of them is extremely influential to Tarantino. And let's start there before we get into the movies. Well,
Hmm.
let me just go down the movies. So we're going to talk about Django, 1966. We're going to talk about The Great Silence, 1968, and we're going to talk about The Specialist, 1969. But before we start going through those, let's talk about why I thought of you to have this discussion, which is the fact that I know that you're a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. So
Hmm.
watching these movies, I kind of discovered these movies, about a year and a half ago myself, and wanted to talk about them. I've been thinking about having a discussion about them for a while, but immediately when I was like, okay, I need to do something with this. Thought, oh, Danny would be a good guy to have on because I knew you hadn't seen these, and I knew you were a giant Tarantino fan, so watching these would give you'd have a big appreciation for him. So
Yeah, huge Tarantino fan. He's my favorite director, for those of you guys that don't know me. And I'm very glad I watched these. You definitely, when you watch these, you think, wow, Tarantino totally stole that from this movie. You get that a
yes,
lot. So that's pretty
yeah,
fun. Fun Easter egg, stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, so I know about. Well, I think it was about a year ago when I kind of pushed you into watching the Sergio Leone movies.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, another. Honestly, that was because of Tarantino too. I mean, he's said multiple times that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is his favorite movie.
Oh wow.
Um, those are very influential movies to him. But I would honestly say that Sergio Corbucci is more of a visual reference for his movies than even Leone
Mhm.
is. Um,
Okay.
just the way that the how brutal they are, the violence, the way that he uses those like really fast like zooms and stuff like that. I see the stylistic influence more in Corbucci's films than even the Leone movies. What do you think about that?
Okay, right on. Yeah, that makes sense now that you mention it. Speaking of which, so I've only seen these three, and this is the Mud and Blood trilogy, by the way. That's why we decided to do these three. But
Mm-hmm.
how many of Corbucci's movies have you actually seen?
I've seen. I've seen five. I've seen the other ones I've seen are Navajo Joe and The Mercenary.
And those
Um,
are good too. You
they're
enjoyed
both
those?
good. Yeah.
Okay.
I really. The Mercenary also has Franco Nero from Django. So I enjoyed that one. Navajo Joe is very good, very fun. I would say.
Okay.
It's got starring a young Burt Reynolds who plays
Oh,
a Navajo.
right on.
So there is a bit of brown face in it,
Okay.
but if you can get past that, it's a really fun movie.
Okay. And if anyone's wondering, I was able to watch Django, uh, Sergio Corbucci's Django, for free on Roku TV. I don't know if
Nice.
it's free anywhere else, but as for what's the next one? The Great Silence. I had to pay for that one, but The Specialist I couldn't find anywhere. I
Yeah.
actually bought the Blu-ray on Amazon just so I could watch it. So, but I'm glad I did. It was definitely worth the watch. So, and if you don't mind watching it in another language, we had to watch it. You have to read subtitles the whole time because it isn't
Hmm.
dubbed over in English. So,
Yeah, I mean these are Italian movies, and a lot of the bigger ones did have English dubs. If you're not super familiar with Italian movies, they were notorious for basically. I mean, they really didn't record audio on set. Like they would have like a temp track, but not. They weren't really worried about audio when they were filming the movies, and that's one reason. Like if you look at Italian movies in the 60s and the early 70s versus Hollywood studio movies, they're so much more stylish in Italy because the fact that they weren't worried about audio allowed them to move the camera a lot more freely.
hmm,
That's why you get a lot more style, like the movies in America and or Britain and a lot of other the major countries, they were very much more locked down at the time because to move the camera, you're doing a lot more. You're moving all the sound equipment. There's a lot more going on there. Whereas
gotcha.
if they're just moving the camera around and not worried about audio, they're just dubbing everything afterwards. They can kind of whip the camera around 360, do what they want. They don't really care. So that's why
Gotcha.
there's a lot more style there. Um,
Right on.
um, So yeah, let's go ahead. So yeah, and kind of forgot my point, but the fact that the specialist is only in Italian is because it
Hmm.
was one of the like smaller, the later spaghetti westerns. It just didn't. I don't think it
Right.
ever probably ever made it to the States. Whereas
Okay.
Django was a little bit bigger. Great Silence was a little bit. There was a little bit more of a audience for it, so they
I
did
got
an English dub for it. Where most of them, some of the smaller ones, they didn't have the budget for it. I think.
Okay, right on. If anyone wants to know, I'm just gonna go ahead and rank these from my least favorite to least favorite. Because first, I watched Django first, and it was an awesome movie. I really
Yeah.
liked it. I was expecting it to be my favorite. I watched what's the next? The Great Silence next, and I actually liked that one a little bit better. So I have that one first, then I have
Hmm.
Django, and then I watched The Specialist. I didn't love that one. I enjoyed it, and it's worth watching, but
Hmm.
it just was missing something the other two were missing.
I agree, and my ranking is the same. And I want to go. I will actually. I don't want to go chronologically. Let's talk about the movies from least to greatest. Save the best for
Okay,
last.
I could do that.
So let's start. Let's just go ahead and start with the specialist.
Right on.
So yeah, I felt this kind of the same way. It was interesting. There was really good moments in it,
Mhm.
but there was really a magic like missing to me that it just wasn't quite present. Um, that was there in the other two.
Yeah.
Uh,
These movies, they're all similar in a way. Like basically, they're all kind of revenge stories. They all feature one lone badass, but they all
mhm,
have something different and new to bring to the table, which I thought was cool. So this movie, the main character, his name is Hud, and he's coming to
yeah,
this town, right? And so the whole town is worried. So they know this guy. They're like, "Oh,
mhm,
did you hear HUD's coming? HUD's coming." So you know that this guy, something's up with this guy. He's dangerous. People are scared of him. And what's
right,
also interesting about this movie is in this town, guns, you're not allowed to have guns. So they take your weapons when you go in here.
mhm,
So that brings a new interesting dynamic, which I thought was pretty cool. And plus, you're not used to seeing a Western where there's no, I mean, there's guns in the movie, but for a big portion of it, a lot of the characters don't have guns, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
absolutely, yeah. No, that's thanks for giving us a rundown because as you were saying, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of I was remembering some
Yeah,
things,
like there's one scene in this movie which I thought was pretty cool. They're in a bar, and of course, there's gonna be a bar fight,
of
but
course.
these other guys they have knives, so they start going after HUD. Of course, he
Hmm.
whoops their butts, and then the sheriff comes in, and I thought this was really funny. And HUD just punches him, knocks him out, and takes the sheriff's gun and just walks away.
Yeah,
I was cracking up at that part.
yeah, yeah. No, I thought the same thing. He's not worried about any of it. Like even when he gets taken into the city in the beginning, when the sheriff brings him in, and he takes away his gun. Like
Uh-huh.
remember there's that guy in the bell tower that's about to
Oh
kill
yeah,
him, and he
yeah.
just jumps and grabs the sheriff's gun and kills him. He does like
Yeah,
a diving shot and
yeah.
kills him immediately. And then I don't remember, does he hand his gun back to him or something? I
I
don't
think
remember.
so.
I think so
Yeah.
too.
There's but all the characters in these movies are of course sharpshooters. They're experts with guns.
Yeah.
They never miss any shots at all.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of funny moments in this movie. Like there was one scene where they got the sheriff tied up. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it was like the Mexican revolutionaries or whatever, but they tied him up and he had to do like a head butting match. They're
Right.
basically fighting with just their heads. You're thinking, what in the world? But that's what made this movie pretty unique. So
Uh-huh.
it doesn't get boring.
Yeah, no, there was interesting stuff all the way through. But I will say, like, whereas, like, we'll get to the other movies more in depth later, but like, Django, you have Franco Nero, which just like he is he like has that like screen presence. He lights up the
Oh yeah,
screen. He's like the closest of the three stoic leads in these movies.
absolutely.
He's the
Yeah,
best. He's like the closest one we get to like a Clint Eastwood,
exact.
you
Yep,
know.
I agree completely. Yep.
And in the Great Silence, I don't remember I mean, they just call him Silence, but the actor's name, he does a really good job for having zero lines, and he does it. He's really good in the movie, but he doesn't quite have that twinkle in his eye the way that Franco Nero
Right.
does.
I
You
think
know,
Django has the greatest lead hero, and I think
agreed.
The Great Silence has the greatest villain. I love the
Absolutely,
villain in The Great Silence.
absolutely.
But
Uh,
back to the specialist. So basically, the main plot of this movie is the town, like a bunch of their money goes missing, right? Because the bank or loan office somewhere gets robbed.
right
I
by
forget
the
what it.
by HUD's brother.
Oh, right, right, right. And then HUD's brother gets killed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why HUD he's investigating. He wants to figure out what's going on. So are we like talking spoilers, or I mean, these movies?
Yeah, and that's one reason I want to save Great Silence for last, because there is
Oh
a
yeah,
real spoiler in that movie that I want to
right.
save and give a warning to people if they haven't seen it, because
Yeah.
it will kind of ruin the
Oh
experience.
yeah. Well, chances are, I mean, if you're watching this, you might have seen these movies. If not, I mean, well,
Yeah, yeah.
anyways.
I mean, I think plenty of people might just watch it without possibly without having seen it. Maybe they've seen Django or something, but I don't want to ruin the Great Silence, because
Okay, yeah, I
that's
got
one of
you.
the. Well, we will talk spoilers, but we'll give a warning first. But this one,
Right.
I don't care as much, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. But yeah, so it turns out this woman was behind a lot of this. Turns out she was
Mhm.
behind the money being stolen, and she switched it with fake money. And then
Right.
near the end, there was a duel. There's like the main Mexican guy, a revolutionary, El Diablo, and he has a duel with HUD, and
Mhm.
of course he ends up losing. And he has this guy following him around, and he writes notes down documenting his life, the great Diablo. And
Oh
it's funny
yeah.
because as he's laying there dying, he tells him, "Don't tell the truth, or tell him I
Right.
won, or something." But I thought that was interesting. But he was a really good character too. And
Yeah. I
so
liked how HUD walked around with the chainmail all the time. I
oh
thought
yeah,
that was interesting. It's ridiculous. He would still get killed. I don't care if they shoot the chainmail.
right,
It's still gonna
yeah,
kill you at close range. But
yeah. And
but
then
it was a funny way to get around that.
So yeah, and then HUD, he ends up finding the real money, and he don't care about the money at all. So he ends up
Hmm.
burning it in front of the whole town, and the whole town is just going crazy. And I love that scene too because I wonder how many movies have done that. Since this movie, I don't know, I feel like it was probably pretty original for its time. And
Hmm.
then this movie does kind of take a weird turn because there's this gang.
It does. It does take a weird turn.
Who was that gang? It was like,
It's basically some hippies.
okay,
I mean, they're a bunch of hippies that live in the woods or
right,
something. Like, it's. Hey, I was gonna bring it up. This is kind of got a real hippie vibe to it, more than the other movies.
right,
Because at one point they're like smoking weed and they're like trying to have sex with that other girl at the
yeah,
cabin and stuff. Like they were like real hippies. This was like
real,
right
yeah,
69. It's like right before the 70s free
right.
love revolution.
So they were able to take control of the whole town because no one has guns. So
Hmm.
they basically make them strip, and they're all laying down on the ground, and you see like 100 butts on the
Yeah,
screen.
it's a lot of
And it
nudity.
ain't like a quick glimpse. I mean, it lingers, and I'm at one point I'm like, "Why am I watching this? Like, is it necessary?" But what'd you think about that when you saw that?
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. I was like, it felt like a fourth act to the movie because
True.
it felt like we had the third act, like the main confrontation, and then it just kept going another beat. So I was like,
Right.
I I think I wrote it in my letterbox review, but I think this movie would have actually been better if they had simplified the plot a little bit. You could have removed that whole subplot and it
True.
wouldn't have changed anything, and I think it actually would have been a better movie. It would have made it a little, because it did feel even though it's like an hour 45, it felt a little bit long to
I
me.
agree. Yep.
I think it should have been a quick 90 minutes in and out. Like it would have been much better to me
Right.
if they had done that.
I do like the part though, like right at the end when HUD he's injured if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
but he starts walking towards these guys, but his gun is empty. But he's like, "I'm gonna
Yeah,
go out there." So these other guys see HUD coming and they get scared. They're like, "Oh crap, we
he
need
just
to book it out of here." Little
he,
do they know his gun's empty, but they're so scared of this guy that they just hightail it out there. And I thought
right.
that was pretty cool. I really liked that.
Yeah, that was a good moment. I agree. That it was a good bluff. That just shows you how much they actually respect that guy.
Yeah.
And then
And it was classic. He rides off into the sunset.
probably to
Classic
die.
Western.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, where's he going, right? But yeah, it was a good movie. If you don't mind reading the whole movie,
Hmm.
which I don't. I mean, so what? But
If you really mind subtitles, then
right, yeah.
whatever.
Some people
But
are gonna just not watch it because of that.
yeah, yeah,
But if you
yeah,
like Western, you like Sergio Corbucci, you haven't seen it, watch it. I mean, I
absolutely.
think I
Yeah,
paid about $10 for the Blu-ray. It was
yeah,
worth it. I'm glad I got it.
yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed the experience for sure. Um, yeah, no, it was a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next one, which, since we're going in favorite order, let's go to the classic Django
Django.
19. Django.
Yeah, so if anyone's wondering, the plot is pretty different from Tarantino's Django,
Oh
which
yeah,
is kind of surprising. I don't know. Tarantino must really love this movie, obviously, if he's gonna name his movie after it. But yeah, it's very different but
right.
enjoyable.
Well, one thing that's funny about this movie is if you go look up like a list of spaghetti westerns in the 60s, there is probably 10 to 15 of them that have Django in the title.
Oh,
But
really?
but none of them are sequels to this movie. they basically this movie was so popular that they just capitalized off of the title. So
Wow.
Django was such a big movie, everyone liked Django. So there's a ton of movies. They just put Django in there thinking, "Oh, it's another Django movie," but it's not.
Wow, that's
And
great.
and Italian cinema is so much that way. They are all about just getting the money, getting the butts and seats, and riding any wave. You know, like
Okay.
the westerns, the whole spaghetti western genre came about because of the popularity of them. Before that, they did like a million gladiator movies because things like Spartacus and Ben Hur were popular. So they did
Right.
a ton of gladiator movies, and they basically just flood the market with that genre until they burn it out, and then they move on to another genre.
Huh.
So they do the same thing with titles. Like if a title's really popular, like Django, then there's a few dollars for Django. There's I forget all the titles, but there's a ton of movies with Django. So I think that Tarantino was not only referencing this movie, but just the Italian tradition
Right.
of naming
Okay.
a spaghetti western with Django in the title.
That makes sense. That's probably
Yeah,
why he did that. Thanks for clearing that up.
yeah, for sure.
So this movie was awesome. Okay, I mean, right from the start, you're hooked because you got this guy, you got the catchy Django song, and he's just dragging a coffin behind
Hmm.
him.
Did you know what was in the coffin?
I didn't know what was in it.
Okay,
Well, not
okay.
the first time I watched it, but
Hmm.
so you're thinking, what is in that coffin? Why is he dragging it around? So
Right.
that's pretty interesting. So yeah, what'd you really like about this movie?
I mean, it's just so much fun. It's like the simple revenge tale, but you've got like a really good protagonist in Franco
Yeah,
Nero, and he's just kind of lights up the screen. There's like some people that just like the camera just likes them, and he's
yeah,
got that
uh-huh.
look.
He's
He's
like the
just got that look.
ultimate badass hero. I mean, the first time I watched this movie, he would instantly make like a top 10 list of
Hmm.
my favorite movie heroes. That's how cool this guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Uh,
he's doing Clint Eastwood. He's doing the exact same thing Clint
yeah,
Eastwood is, but he's got his own, sort of twist on it.
right,
It's a little different.
right. So he there's some pretty good action near the beginning. There's these group of racist guys,
Mhm.
and they're like kind of smacking around. I think it's like a Hispanic woman.
Mhm.
It's been a couple weeks since I watched this, but
Mhm.
so he immediately kills a bunch of guys because he's a gentleman and he don't like it when they mistreat ladies. So
Mhm.
you immediately like this guy from the start, and then it's just funny too because he's got such an attitude, and goes into this saloon and he's just sitting there drinking, and the town I guess it's run by like a gang. I forget what the name of the gang is.
Right. I mean, it's basically you got it's basically the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, yeah, true, true.
Essentially, they don't say the name, but it is basically the
But
Klan.
they wear like red instead of white, or
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyways. So one of the guys walks into the bar and he's kind of just mean mugging Django,
Mhm.
and Django looks at him and he pulls a cork out of his booze and he just spits it in the guy's face.
Mhm.
He just looks at him like, "Do something." And the guy he was just too scared. He didn't do nothing, but he leaves and goes and gets his posse. So
Mhm.
immediately you're like, "Oh crap. It's gonna go down. Something is gonna happen."
Right.
And we don't even know Django's goal at
Backstory.
this point, right? Or we
Yeah, you
don't
don't for
know.
quite a while. You don't know
Right.
what he's after.
So
It's
he's mysterious.
so this movie, Leone's Fistful of Dollars, was inspired by the Kurosawa movie Yojimbo
Yes.
because it. that one for a fistful of dollars is a little bit closer, but this one has a distinct similarity as well because he's kind of just a drifter going into this town. He's kind of playing both sides.
Right, true.
It's got a very similar setup.
And I remember hearing that didn't Akira how do you say it?
Kurosawa,
Kurosawa, didn't he
yeah,
sue Sergio Leone
Leone, yeah,
because of how similar the movies were?
he
But I still
did.
never saw Yojimbo. Um,
You should watch it. It's
I
really good.
I do plan on it. Do you like it as much as
Um,
Sergio Leone's?
no, no, I don't like it as much. I mean,
But
I
it's
mean,
still good.
so yeah, so I think I know I have it in the other room. Uh, it's really good. It's a few years older, and in Japan they had far less resources. They didn't have the same style. The Leone is just so much more stylish.
Right.
The lead in Yojimbo is awesome. It's Toshiro Mifune. He's a fabulous actor. He
Okay.
has that same loner, lone samurai
Right.
mentality. It's a
Mhm.
really cool movie, but yeah, I'm more of a Western guy than I am a samurai guy too. And at the end of the day, I
Okay.
like both,
Yeah.
but no, it's a great movie. And the sequel, Sanjuro, is also really good too.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
would definitely recommend watching them.
right. So Leone and Corbucci basically stole the idea, but they did it
Hmm.
better, so it's okay. We forgive them for it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically, and apparently Kurosawa made more money off of that lawsuit than he did on any of his movies.
Ah. Oh man.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
So yeah, so then near that when the guy goes and gets his buddies, so
Hmm.
a bunch of them come. I forget how many. It was maybe 100, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it
It's
was a
quite a
lot.
bit. Yeah.
And then you find out what's in the coffin. So
Hmm.
Django opens it and he pulls out like this Gatling gun
Hmm.
and he sets it up and he starts mowing these guys. Kills a bunch of them,
Most of
most of
them.
them. Yeah, a
Yeah.
few get away. So you're thinking, wow, this guy is not playing around and he's come prepared. So, what was your reaction when you first saw what was in the coffin?
I mean, I just thought it was awesome. It was really cool. I mean, so when I watched this, it was when Arrow had put out the 4K,
Uh huh.
and the cover on the 4K has him holding the Gatling gun.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of knew what it was already. But what I thought was really interesting, what clicked in my head when I saw that is it reminded me so much of Robert Rodriguez, Desperado,
Oh yeah,
carrying
yeah, yeah.
around that guitar case full of guns. Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
he must have seen this movie too. It has to be a reference to
Yeah,
this
yeah,
movie,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, that was fun. So, oh yeah, I also jotted down in my notes. I wrote, I wrote women fighting in the mud. So there was
Oh,
two.
dude, that's why this trilogy is called Mud and Blood, because this
Yeah,
whole movie is just mud.
yeah. So I
I was
forget
oh
why they were even fighting, but so you get to see two women mud wrestling. I thought that was pretty cool.
hey, I'm always down for that.
And then there's a scene in this movie when one of the Mexicans they end up cutting a dude's ear off. So
Tarantino.
now, yeah, I was just gonna say, what movie do you think about when a
Immediately,
dude's ear is getting cut off? So
immediately.
Reservoir Dogs. He had to have took that from this movie, which
I mean,
I
it
think
looks
that's
just
awesome.
like it. The way that they cut it off and he pulls the ear out. Yeah, it looks just like Reservoir
I think
Dogs.
there was a quote from Tarantino. I don't know if it's true or not, but he basically said, "I steal from every movie I watch."
Hmm.
I don't know if it's literally every movie, but
Hmm.
from a lot of them. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I mean, to talk about him. I mean, he's an encyclopedia.
Oh yeah.
He's seen so many movies. Like, there's obvious references. Like when we talk about the Great Silence, that movie is like at least 50% of
Hateful
the
Eight.
Hateful Eight, but there's also a ton of other things in it too. It's not just Great Silence.
Right.
It's like 10 other movies too. And
Uh,
I don't even know. I wonder how much of it is conscious reference and how much of it is unconscious. Just like him just pooling all of the ideas
right.
of all the things that he's seen over
I wonder how
his
much he thinks is his idea, but really it's just something
sure.
stored in the back of his mind.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
there's got to be a ton of stuff that he's forgotten.
you're right.
He's probably
Yeah.
forgotten more movies than we've ever seen, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So Django and the leader of the Mexican revolutionaries, his name is Hugo, and they end up stealing a bunch of gold from the Mexican army. And they did like this sneak attack, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so eventually
hmm
I wrote the Mexicans, they end up destroying Django's. Well, before I get to that, Django wants his cut, right? But they don't want to give it to him yet,
hmm
and I forget why. It's is it because they're greedy? Was there a reason?
Um, it's been a couple of weeks for me too. I don't remember. I don't remember the reason they didn't give it to him. But I'm pretty sure a scene like that happens in one of the Leone movies too, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it might have been in a few dollars more,
These people,
but
they're
it was
just
one of them.
greedy, you know.
Yeah,
I think they were using Django, and they didn't want to lose him because he's
absolutely.
help.
Yeah.
But Django ends up getting his cut, and the Mexicans, they destroy his hands when they catch him. Don't they like trample on his hands with, or they're
Mhm.
beating it with their rifles and
Yeah, they break his hands. That's a theme in Corbucci's movies. He likes to destroy
yeah,
people's
I
hands.
noticed that in a couple of these.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, oh no, like what? He can't use his guns if his hands are destroyed. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool because the hero is injured. You're thinking, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And he ends up having this final showdown. And I forget what his main Django's main goal was though.
Well, so the final showdown is on
It's
the grave of his wife.
That's right. Or was it his parents? Was it his wife?
I thought it was his wife.
Well, anyways, someone he cares about
Yeah.
got murdered, right? So
Yeah.
he wants revenge.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Okay.
a revenge tale. You don't know who it's about for a long time, but yeah. Yeah, he goes to the grave once before in the movie. Uh
Okay.
and then yeah, so he goes back there at the end
Right.
and they follow him to the grave. And that's that scene of him fumbling around with the gun, uh,
Yeah.
trying to
Man.
hold it up against the
Oh.
crucifix,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he keeps dropping it because he can't. His hands are broken.
Right. Man, my
It's
hands were hurting while watching that. It's like, oh man. But he ends up able to position it just right, and there's a showdown, and he wins,
uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And he survives. He does live, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
So
alive at the end of the movie. He's pretty
nice,
bro
good, happy ending. Except his hands are in a lot of pain. They'll probably never be right.
probably yeah, probably not. But he's wait, does his girl gets killed, right? Don't they kill her?
I forget. I wrote down he grabs the gold and he leaves with Maria. I
He
don't
does leave.
recall. Yeah, but if she died, I forgot to jot that down. But
Well, the gold fell in the quicksand, didn't it?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
He loses the gold. If
Right.
it drops in the quicksand, that's when they break his hands.
Well, there's another theme. The money ends up not being gained by anyone,
Mm,
just
mhm.
like the specialist. It gets burned in the quicksand. Okay, the gold gets lost in the quicksand.
Yep.
So he's seeing,
There's also a theme in all these movies of not trusting the institutions. Like
yeah,
the institutions are always end up being the bad guys in the end. Like in the specialist, the lady that runs the bank, it ends up being the
right,
bad guy. The guy in the Great Silence is he basically runs the town too, and killed that
Right,
guy's parents,
right,
and cut his throat, and but he's the
right.
institution of the
Well, we'll get
town,
to that.
Yeah,
But, yeah, Django, awesome movie, really liked
yeah.
it. How do you think this compares to Tarantino's Django? Which one do you like better? Just for fun.
I prefer this one actually
Do
a
you?
little bit.
It
Yeah,
was fun.
yeah. I
I'd
think this is
probably have to go with Tarantino's just because I love Tarantino, and,
sure.
but no, this was fun. I have a feeling this is one that'll get better every time I watch it.
Yeah, it did for me. Watching it the second time, I was like, man, I like this movie even more than the first time.
Right,
Um, and I like Django Unchained quite a bit, but it's still, I think, on the lesser end of my Tarantino ranking. You know,
right.
I love him doing a western, but it's just not quite as
And
strong
what's his
for
name?
me.
Francis Nero?
Franco Nero.
Franco Nero.
Yeah,
And for those that don't know, he makes a cameo in
he does.
Tarantino's Django. And it's the part where the guy asks Django if he knows how to spell his name, and he goes Django. The J is silent. And then Franco goes, I know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty funny, pretty clever. Which I didn't catch the first time I watched it. I forget
Oh,
how I
really?
learned that, but because I
Yeah,
didn't even
no.
know who he was.
I remember hearing that it was that guy. I didn't had not seen the movie, so I didn't really know, how significant that was. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
Um, he's also in the second John Wick movie,
Oh, is he?
the part
Okay.
two, when he goes to the Continental that's in Italy, in I think in Rome.
Mhm.
He's the guy. He's the old guy that runs the Continental in Rome.
Oh.
Yeah, go back and watch that scene. It's Franco Nero. Pretty
Well, he's
cool.
he's gonna be an old guy in anything he's in now. But,
Yeah, definitely. But I realized
uh,
that after watching the Django, I was like, "Oh, that is awesome. That's so cool."
yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
he's still working. Right on.
yeah,
So that's Django. Awesome movie. Definitely watch this. If you guys wanna skip The Specialist, that's one thing, but you gotta watch
yes,
Django, 1966. Great movie.
yep, yep. That's a classic movie. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should watch that. And there's a great Arrow Blue 4K. It's
Ooh,
like one of the best looking 4Ks I've ever seen. It's like the restoration is incredible on that
I need
movie.
to look into that for sure.
It is worth getting. It's a beautiful Blu-ray or
They need to
4K.
release a Mud and Blood set, these 3
Oh,
movies. That would be dope.
yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. I see, like you told me about that it was a trilogy though. See, I didn't even know it was a trilogy.
Yeah.
Cuz
Well, because I'm looking up info on Wikipedia and stuff, and
right.
yeah.
No, normally I'm the guy that does all the research, and this I was just like, let's just, talk about it for a
And you
while. And
just
I
happen to pick these 2 movies, Django and The Great Silence.
Well, these two movies I are both like, so The Specialist was pretty good, but I don't see the reference in the Tarantino stuff nearly as much. And I was thinking in terms of that more.
Right.
I just saw both of these movies. I was like, both of these are great spaghetti westerns that are, with Tarantino both loves both of these movies. So let's talk about these. And you said, hey, The Specialist is like the third part in this trilogy. I was like, okay, well,
Right.
let's do all three. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are the main two movies. These are like the classics to me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. I see why. Yep. These are definitely the better ones. The
yeah,
Great Silence, El Grande Silencio.
Silencio. Yeah,
Awesome
yeah,
movie.
yeah, and yeah, this movie is incredible. Like it was a gut punch the first time I watched it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially like you would get some. I've watched tons of westerns. I'm a huge western fan. I grew up watching westerns because of my dad. He's a big John Wayne guy and stuff. So I watched tons of those movies as a kid. But we didn't watch as much of the spaghetti westerns. And, and most of the westerns you see, there is much more of a desert setting. just like Django, just like The Specialist. More, plains, high
Right.
plains, and and desert setting. So when you get a snow western,
Yeah.
I am so in on
This
a
movie
snow western.
was very original, at least compared to the other two.
Mhm.
So, quick synopsis: you get this group of outlaws, and there's a group of bounty hunters who are
Mhm.
tracking these guys down.
Mhm.
And what I really like was the bounty hunters were the bad guys, the villains in this movie.
Mhm.
Which most of the movies I've seen that include bounty hunters, they're the ones you root for, and then you get these ruthless outlaws.
Right. Well, except
Those are the
Silence is also a bounty hunter. He's the good
oh
guy.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
So
yeah, yeah, we're good bounty hunter against bad bounty hunters, and yeah,
you're
in the
right.
movie, yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, these bounty hunters, they're not good guys.
Mhm.
And as for the, they don't tell you the main character's name in this movie, right? He
They just
remains nameless.
they just call him Silence, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Silence. So
Yeah,
silent. He's an outlaw too, right? If I remember
he's a
right.
bounty hunter. Yeah.
Oh, he is a bounty hunter. Okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah, what's awesome about this movie is, first of all, it reminds you of The Hateful Eight,
Mhm.
which is an awesome movie. That's my third favorite Tarantino movie. I actually like that one a little better than Django.
I agree.
Oh yeah, yeah, very underrated. Hateful Eight gets a lot of crap from
Yeah,
people.
people shit on that movie for some reason. I don't really know why. I much prefer that one to Django.
Yeah,
Honestly, like,
the Ha-
yeah.
the Hateful Eight, man, it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen too. That's a straight up comedy, and you can listen to The Hateful Eight. You don't even have to watch it, and it's just so entertaining. It's
Yes.
hilarious, and I am just laughing nonstop with that movie.
Although I think it's one of his darker movies
Oh yeah,
too.
it's
It is unforgiving. Very much in the same way that this
right,
movie is. This is not this one is very little of the comedy that you're talking about,
right,
but
but
very like
yeah,
cold and just brutal and unforgiving.
right. Well, I jotted down a couple things that were similar to The Hateful Eight that Tarantino might have borrowed from this movie.
Mhm.
So there's a part in this movie where there's a sheriff stuck in a blizzard, okay,
Mhm.
because his horse dies, and he ends up hitching a ride, just like in The Hateful Eight.
Mhm.
And they're dialoguing, they're talking about taking people in, should you do it dead or alive,
Mhm.
just like The Hateful Eight. And also, the when Silence kills, he don't like to just he likes to kill in self defense, but he
Yep.
provokes people. Like he'll get someone to draw first,
Yep.
so he has an excuse to draw and kill.
Mhm.
So kind of like the Hateful Eight, that's what Major Marquez Warren does, Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Mhm.
Like when he wanted to kill the old man, he provoked him. He started talking a bunch of crap about his son. You know the scene.
Mhm.
And so he goes to pick up a gun. Yeah, Sandy don't give a damn Smithers, and then Warren blows him away. So
Yep.
yeah, so that and the snow setting has Hateful Eight all over it. So I really
Oh
enjoyed
yeah,
that.
especially all the stuff with the stagecoaches. It's like, oh, well, like he ripped whole scenes out of the movie
Oh yeah,
in the stagecoach scene. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely, as soon as I started watching, I was like, oh wow, yeah. It's all about bounty hunters. It's all snowy. Yeah. There's
right.
so much taken from that. But
And of course, you get action right from the start. Bunch of bloody action. These people
yeah.
get or Silence. He gets like ambushed, and he kills a bunch of guys in self-defense, of course.
Hmm.
So he's immediately a hero, badass, and yeah, this is another awesome hero character. He's
Yeah.
almost as cool as Django, but not
Well, I
quite.
I love that they're taking the stoic lead to the like most extreme degree, where like someone
Yeah,
like Clint Eastwood or Franco Nero, Django, they don't talk very much. They're very like sort of the silent hero. Well,
right.
like this guy is literally the
Yeah,
silent hero.
right.
you know,
So,
he- Go
and
ahead.
then we end up finding out why he's silent.
Hmm.
So, spoilers. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
when
he's
he's
got the
Right.
scarf.
Was that visible throughout the movie? I didn't notice.
No, no, no. He shows it like maybe like 30, 40 minutes in the
Okay.
movie. He pulls down his scarf and shows
Right.
it.
And there's a flashback when he was a kid, and that's when they kill his parents, right? Or his mom,
Yes.
and then they cut his throat so he can't talk.
Yeah, they were coming after his dad for some reason. I think he was wanted, because that's one of the themes of this movie, like the people that are out in the during the whole movie, those people that they call the bandits. They're basically people that are too poor to be able to pay for food and stuff, so they become outlaws. Well, that's what
Right.
kind of what happens to his dad. He like you don't get very much of the backstory, but he was wanted for something, so they end up
Oh,
coming for his dad, and they say, okay, we're going to take you alive, and the moment that they open the door, they just blow both of his parents away, and they're like, well, we can't have the kid say anything, so they cut his throat so that he can't
mm,
talk.
okay.
Yeah, I watched this
So,
one this morning, so it's very fresh for me.
right. So, as for the villain in this movie, I really like that guy. He was you love to hate this guy. I mean, this
Uh-huh.
guy's a jerk. But the actor that played him was
Klaus
really
Kinski.
good. Oh, yeah, I don't know his name. Was he in a lot of good movies or?
He did a lot of Italian movies. I I don't I don't want to say where he's from because I can't remember, but he was speaking English in the movie. He was one of the few people that were actually speaking English
Okay.
and not Italian in the movie. But yeah, he did a lot of Italian movies during this time. He got really he was like he played Nosferatu, an Italian version. He was in For a Few Dollars More.
Okay.
He has a really good scene with Clint Eastwood in that movie. Um, but he did a whole bunch of Italian movies during that time. But
Okay.
this is by far the best thing that I've seen him do because he is chilling in this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah. He was yeah,
He is such a good bad guy.
right. He's one of those guys that he stands out. He's a scene stealer. Every scene
Yeah,
he's in, you're focused on him.
yeah. Well, he's got these crazy eyes, dude. He just
Oh
like
yeah.
the way that he looks. He just like has this like crazy look in his eyes. He's like, this dude will
I don't
kill.
know if he's known for playing bad guys, but
Yeah.
I feel like he could have been the hero in this movie. Like his acting is so good, but he
Right.
nailed it as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he ends
Agreed.
up killing this guy in front of his wife, I believe. Was it his wife?
Yes.
It's like a
Yes. It's
young
his
man,
wife.
and you're thinking, man, this guy is such a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
But so instantly you want this guy dead, and yeah. So well, first of all, what I really like about all these movies,
Mm-hmm.
not to sound cliche, but they just don't make them like this. And there's one part where this guy is getting buried, and the guy digging the grave or whatever, and then he quotes the Bible and he says, I wrote it down. John 11:25. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall never die.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cool because you just don't see stuff like that in modern movies anymore. It's like movies will do anything to avoid that. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of appreciated that. And
Yeah, you see that in a
what
lot of
else?
westerns, though. Like, I mean, that was a very, very religious time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I kind of liked it. It was just
Mm-hmm.
part of the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's rare to see stuff like that in movies nowadays.
Yeah. True.
But also, what's similar about this movie to Django is he ends up getting his hands injured,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
So let's go ahead and do the spoiler warning now. So
Oh,
this is like a this is a to me this is an all time classic western. This is in probably my top 10 favorite westerns
okay.
of all time. So if you like movies like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or Django, or any of the stuff like that, if you're interested in this and you haven't seen it, go watch it before go ahead and pause this video because the ending of this movie is a gut punch. It totally changes the whole dynamic of the film,
It was
and,
awesome.
and it's very unexpected, and you don't want to get it ruined for you because it will lessen your experience a little
Well,
bit, I think.
real quick, hold that thought. You say it's top 10 westerns. I'm curious, how many westerns roughly have you seen? Because I haven't seen many.
Mm, at least 50 or 60.
Damn. Okay, so
Yeah.
basically, I've only seen the Dollars trilogy, the Mud and Blood trilogy, uh, Once Upon a Time in the West,
Hmm.
and Tarantino's,
Okay.
and that's about all I've seen westerns. So this really isn't my genre where I know a whole bunch about it.
Hmm.
But from the ones I've seen, I haven't really seen any that I don't like. So,
Sure.
well, if you've seen 50 or 60 for this to be top 10, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. And what it's doing is like, and I'm really glad that you watched Django before this, because what this movie is doing is it's playing on your expectation
Right,
of how the movie will end, and
right,
and also it came out 2 years after Django, so it's playing on the expectation of how Django ends, because it does something super similar, like you said. He gets his hands really messed up, and but he's got to go face the bad guys at the end. So when he goes out there, and they got all of the bandits, they
mhm,
got everyone at gunpoint in the bar, and you're like, he's got to go save these people. And when you get to the end, and he just they just shoot him, like he can't do anything. Like, it's such a brutal, cynical ending to this
right,
movie. Like, even when he gets shot, you're thinking, okay, the sheriff who supposedly got killed earlier in the movie, or you know, we think he's killed. We like, maybe the sheriff will show up, or the girl that hired him will show up and end up shooting
right.
Klaus Kinski. Something's gonna happen, right? Someone's gonna save the
Yeah,
day,
some big
and
bird's gonna swoop down and save the day. Yeah, then it
yeah,
never happens.
and it doesn't happen. It just, like, he gets shot, and then she runs out, and they shoot her, and then they shoot all the guys in the bar. They kill everybody.
Oh man, yeah, they kill all the outlaws.
They kill all of them
Straight up
in cold
massacre.
blood. Yeah.
They didn't like shooting fish in barrels. So
It's
all
it's
these
the
char
opposite of the normal ending. They
yeah,
kill they kill at all the innocents, and then we have the ride off in the sunset for the bad
right.
guys.
So it's dark and twisted, and it was shocking now, okay, in 2022.
Dude, it
So
blew my mind. I
I'm
was like,
wondering in 1968 how the audience what they were thinking.
yeah.
I wonder if it was very common for the lead character to lose and die like that. What do you
Well,
think?
I mean, there in the 70s we had much more like dark, gritty movies, like they're more ambiguous, or like the bad guy wins or something like that. But not in the 60s. Definitely not in the 60s. And you still don't see stuff like that very often. It's like
No.
this is an anti-Hollywood ending. Like
Yeah.
I don't even think this movie really got distribution in the US. I was watching some I have the Blu-ray, so I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff, and like the Fox like bought the movie, and then the executive that owned Fox at the time watched it, and he hated it. And so like they like didn't play it in the US for a really long time,
Wow.
because it's so dark, it's so cynical, it's so brutal. Like,
Mm.
they do not make movies with these sort of endings. Like, it
Right.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah, this movie was it was very dark. I love the ending, and I was kind of reading about it on Wikipedia,
Hmm.
and apparently they were toying around with a couple alternate endings.
Yes, on the Blu-ray, this is
Ah,
a great Blu-ray. I would recommend buying it. especially since you like the movie so much.
Oh yeah.
They have both of the alternate endings on there.
Oh, they filmed
Yes,
them?
they filmed both of them.
Oh, so what'd you
Yeah.
think about those then? Because I read
Uh, so one of them is kind of what I was saying, alluding to a minute ago. The
the
the dead
sheriff
the dead sheriff shows up
and
and
saves.
starts
Okay.
shooting everybody, and then Silence gets up and helps him, and they like it's a happy ending,
Yay.
which is it's bad. It's like a really bad ending.
Well, let's pretend this original ending never happened and you saw that ending.
I would have been super disappointed.
Would you have? Okay.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
I would have been disappointed. Yeah, I mean, definitely would have been a lesser movie. The ending, I mean, the movie is really good all the way through. I was engaged in it. It's it's a beautiful movie. Another thing that we haven't really mentioned through with the movies, but this one in particular, the score is really really good. It's a Neo
Okay.
Morricone, the same guy that did all the
Ah,
Leone movies. That da
Hateful
da
Eight,
da 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 da
Tarantino's.
da. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's such a good score. It's been in my head all day since I watched it this morning. It's like it's
Yeah,
so
he's
good.
great. He's great. He's
He
my favorite composer.
he's my favorite composer too.
Yeah, he's better than
He's
Hans Zimmer.
better than John Williams. Better like
Oh yeah,
yeah
he's
yeah.
great. He's
I mean, I
great.
don't think John Williams would exist without a Nero Marconi. He is
Okay,
the guy who's revolutionary.
he's a legend. A
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah, but the score is so great in the movie, and I enjoyed it all the way through. But that that last 5 minutes makes the movie.
Ah, okay.
It really makes the movie.
So, how about the alt? Wasn't there like a more ambiguous alternate ending too?
Yeah, there's another one where they shoot Silence, but they don't show him being killed,
Hmm.
and then it just kind of does a freeze frame, and it just comes up with like the end on the screen. So it's like the same footage as the ending that they use, but they just kind of cut it short, so you don't see the brutality of that end,
Okay.
which is it's also really bad. So I'm glad I didn't use either of them.
Okay. So they went with the best one then. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah. Well, that was yeah. So basically, these movies they all share a common thread, but they're all very unique in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the Great Silence. And as for the landscape and the music and the
Mm-hmm.
story and the villain, I think the Great Silence is the better of the movies.
Yes.
Even though Django probably has the best hero.
Yeah, I would say even like some of the action sequences and stuff are probably better or more. Django is a more fun movie.
Yeah,
Like it is much more upbeat and more fun. Like you're having a much more of a good time
I could
in
see that. Yeah.
Django. The Great Silence is a little more. There's like you said, there is humor in it, but it's really dark humor.
Right.
It's much more. I mean, you're in this snowy setting. It feels cold. Everyone feels tired, and it feels like uh, it just it's much heavier. It's much heavier, you know.
Right on. Yeah.
Um, so it's less of a entertaining, fun watch, but it is it's really cool, especially when you see him, going into the bar and antagonizing people to get them to
Yeah.
draw, like throwing the match in the guy's whiskey and stuff, like
Right.
that kind of stuff is really entertaining. So it has those moments in it, but overall it's a little more oppressive. Like I
True.
feel you feel it a little bit more.
Well, anyone watching, go watch The Great Silence. Take
Hmm.
it from Josh because, well, he's more of an expert than I am. He really liked it. Take it from me. I'm a newbie when it comes to westerns, but I really liked it. So
Hmm.
no matter where you stand, I think you'll like it. And I think there's definitely stuff to like with all these movies. Okay, I mean we kind of the specialists we were kind of saying it's the weaker of these three, but it's still a great movie.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's full of humor and great characters. Gets a little weird at the end, but so what?
Yeah,
It's
no,
good.
no, it like the last, I would say like especially the last 30 minutes of The Specialist gets really entertaining. Like
Oh
that
yeah,
third act is a lot of fun. Yeah, it has a couple of weird twists, and it's like, okay, you could have, left that out, but no, it was overall, it's still a pretty good movie. But these other two are stone cold classic westerns.
right on.
Not just good spaghetti westerns, but some of the best westerns ever made.
Dope.
I put both of these up there. Um, yeah, yeah. If you don't like these movies, then you probably don't like westerns.
True. If you're new to westerns, well, I would start with the Dollars trilogy. I think those are like
Yeah, I think the
probably
best place to start with the classic westerns. I mean, of course, we have like the Tarantino, the more modern stuff.
right.
But we get very few westerns these days. So if you're gonna go back and watch some classics, I would definitely start with the spaghetti, the big spaghetti westerns, the Leone
Yeah,
movies, the Corbucci movies. You're gonna have a good time with those for
right.
sure. If you go back further to some of the John Wayne stuff, if you're not if you don't know what you're getting into, there's the chance you might get bored. But
Okay.
if you go into the Leone movies, if you go into like some of the Clint Eastwood stuff in the 70s, and like High Plains Drifter or Pale Rider or something like that, you're gonna have a good time.
Right
So
on.
those are good places to start.
Yeah, I would say maybe they're an acquired taste, but I don't know why someone wouldn't have a taste for these
Hmm.
movies because they're just fun and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just great time. Great time.
Awesome. I'm really glad we got to do this. I had a feeling that you would enjoy these, especially since you liked the Leone movies. I figured you would enjoy these ones too. They're like, they don't have the scope of the Leone movies. They're not quite as like beautiful looking. They're a little grittier.
Right.
Um,
Not as iconic. Yeah.
yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have the iconic shots and stuff. I
Right.
think Django probably has the most of the three of that, but there's some really good landscapes in The Great Silence too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, they have the quick action, the bloody violence, the great scores. They're entertaining, fun movies.
Marksman,
So
shoot 'em up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the. They're almost superheroes because they basically never miss.
Lot of killing. Lot of killing.
Yeah, yeah,
I
a lot of
like to
killing.
quote Rick Dalton when he's like, they're like good picture. And he's like, a lot of killing, a lot of
A lot of killing.
killing. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
You have any closing thoughts at all?
Yeah, I think I've just said everything I wanted to say about these
Yeah,
movies. Just
I think so too. I
check them
think
out. I mean, Josh was right. I mean, if you like Tarantino, you probably like these movies because he takes or he borrows so much from these. So
yeah, absolutely.
just
If
watch
you're a
'em.
Tarantino fan, I can't imagine a world where you don't like this.
And if you've seen these movies, let us know what you thought about them and maybe point out some cool stuff you like or we might have missed.
Yeah, yeah. We
That'd
just
be
had a.
cool.
We talked about 3 movies in an hour, so we had a very loose general discussion.
Oh
There's
yeah,
definitely more we could talk about, but yeah, no. If you like these movies, tell us which one your favorite is. Give us a comment, like the video, do all of that stuff.
right on.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the discussion. I think we'll close it up here. We're right at an hour, so um, yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We will talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace. Uh...